Today we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on wellness activities and team development. So we're going to turn it over from here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Fernandez. I am one of the faculty over at UC San Diego. These are my colleagues here.
Hi, Lori Weichenthal. I'm faculty at UCSF Fresno.
My name is Raman Kapsvai from LA County, USC.
And we're going to give a brief introduction today. This is not meant to be at all a comprehensive course in any way, but really just an introduction to mindfulness. And the topic is mindfulness in ED and life, as well as biofeedback exercises. And the structure of the day, we're going to go through a little bit of the background behind it and some of the theory behind it, and then also do lots of exercises for all of you as well too, just so you can get a taste of it and hopefully start off your day very well. Anyways, we all know that burnout in emergency medicine as well as in clerkship coordinators is a big deal, and in life in general. And what we do is high stress. Obviously for physicians who you work with, they're pretty stressed out through medical school, through residency, afterwards, and I'm sure they bring this to work with you as well. And so you all have very high stress jobs in addition. And rapid changes in healthcare do not help the situation either. There are multiple consequences to burnout amongst physicians in particular, but also within the work environment as well. Can you talk a little bit about burnout?
Sure. Before we go on, I know most of this track is for program director or program coordinators. Anybody else in the room? Any physicians? Good. Any med students, residents? Most of you coordinators?
Yeah, raise your hand if you're a coordinator. Yeah.
Thank you all for being coordinators.
Thank you for what you do.
So yeah, we want to talk a little bit about the physician side because obviously you work with the physicians and you need to know a little bit about what they're going through. And for the physicians in the room, hopefully this is helpful to you. But we know that outside of burnout being a terrible experience in life that affects your family life and your own personal self-esteem and everything else, we also know it has a huge impact on the healthcare system at large. We know that errors, patient care errors are linked to burnout. We also know that substance abuse and depression and suicide are linked to burnout. And we also know that physicians who are burnt out tend to leave their practices early. And that might seem like not a big thing. Good, Jorge decides to retire when he's 50. But the reality is we are already facing a national physician shortage in the United States. And if we lose physicians to burnout, we are increasing that physician shortage. And obviously for the coordinators in the room, if you're dealing with a bunch of burned out, crusty faculty and residents, that's probably impacting your wellness too. So,
anyways, here are our objectives for today. We want you to be able to list 3 tangible benefits after our talk. How does meditation work in general? Describe 2 different mechanisms. How to incorporate mindfulness in your daily life. This is probably the most important part. List 3 ways that you can do this. Practice 3 brief meditations, and we will do this all together. We'll do a body scan, we'll do some breath work, and a loving kindness meditation. And then ideally commit to practicing at least one of these exercises on a regular basis. And most importantly, I think, to share them with colleagues, friends, etc. And maybe even consider yourself taking a course. There's a lot of online, there are in-person courses that are, many of them are free. Some of them are paid. There are a lot of online courses as well too. Raman actually just completed a course over at USC. And maybe he'll talk a little bit more about it as well too. Question?
Yes. Can you put your mic a little bit higher?
Oh, sure.
Thanks. I do really want to stress that, commit to one. We are introducing you to 3 different practices, but it's a very, it'd be very type A to try to do 3 new things in your life. So you're going to get a taste of 3. Pick the one you like the best. See if you can commit to doing it daily for a few minutes a day for a month and see how it affects you. So try not to be too overly ambitious and really just choose one to practice.
So well-being, pretty simple slide here, just explaining how basically on one end we have what the challenges that we face on our day-to-day lives. and basically our stressors and then our coping mechanisms and resources that we have available. And ideally they're balanced out. And biofeedback exercises and mindfulness are one of the many tools that we have on the resource side that we can hopefully use to alleviate the stress in our life. So we're going to do a reflection exercise amongst ourselves and maybe even ask the audience in case there's anyone who's actually had any experience with this as well too. Do you want to maybe start, Raman, since you're kind of a new person to it?
Yeah. Well, so I'll tell you a little bit. I'm sort of, as these guys call it, a neophyte for this. I hadn't been doing this at all in my life. And about a year and a half ago, when we were talking about all the different ways that we could improve our coping mechanisms as the stressors kind of increase in our life, we want to develop more positive coping mechanisms and decrease our negative coping mechanisms. And one of the positive coping mechanisms that we've been hearing about for a long time, that's been studied in the literature, is mindfulness. And so I decided that I would give it a shot. And we actually had one of our sort of mindfulness guys who works at the USC School of Business. He's a business guy who practices this, which I thought was interesting. And he came over and did a grand round with us. And he basically said, look, I know you guys think this is probably kind of, fluffy stuff, this mindfulness, and you guys are doctors, yoga docs, and rah, 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 and you guys probably maybe have never tried this. But I would suggest to you that you keep an open mind in that this mindfulness practice is something that can actually improve your performance. And how does it do that? Well, how often are you in complete control, or at least not even control? How often are you completely aware of your thoughts, your emotions, your breath, and like really, really present when you're jumping around seeing 3 patients an hour, 4 patients an hour, and this goes for anybody in any workplace. In our workplace, I think it is definitely applicable. So, and we did a little 10-minute session, and that was really interesting. In 10 minutes, just focusing on breathing, I had 1,000 thoughts and all these emotions and all these things that they come up and sort of hijack you. And how do you acknowledge that, like, kind of on a daily basis? And then I ended up doing a 6-week course at USC, which was awesome. I'll tell you a few of the sort of tangible benefits that I felt after doing it. Basically, the 6-week course went through working on our breath, kind of working on our body scan, like being aware of like where we have tension and things like that. Working on like just acknowledging emotions and not like judging them, like, oh, I'm feeling pissed off right now. Interesting. That's what being pissed off is. Like, move on. All right. So, and then our thoughts, and where do the thoughts come from? Are they the emotions? And then kindness, sort of the gratitude, self-compassion, expectation. And all of them are super helpful. I am actually less pissed off on the freeway. When I am driving Los Angeles in heavy traffic and I'm getting cut off by somebody, I'm like, yeah, this is what being pissed off on the freeway looks like. It feels like. Don't judge it, let it go on. Back to baseline. I feel like I can be more present with patients. I kind of do like a quick mindfulness exercise before I walk into a patient room. My mindfulness exercise occurs, and I got this from somebody when I push the little soap thing, hand sanitizer. I think you might have, is that you? Yeah, you might have told it. I do that, and that's when I take time to breath and like reorient myself. Like, hey, I'm about to interact with a human being, not a number. Like, let's say hello. Anyway, it's been really, really helpful in a short amount of time for me. And it's not any kind of complex way. Very simple sort of things that like, there's nothing more simple than us breathing. And I found that just being present for that, has led to a lot of benefits for me personally. I'm really happy that I've been doing it.
Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Sure. So my background is a little bit longer. I've been dabbling in meditation and yoga for many years through high school and college, but I began formally practicing a little over 10 years ago. I am trained in the tantric yoga practice tradition. I took a yoga teacher training 10 years ago with Martin and Jordan Kirk, and have been studying with various yoga teachers and meditation teachers since then. Tantric yoga, for yoga in general, I mean, most of us in the West think of it as just the asana, the physical practice of yoga, but the reality is there's 8 branches of yoga. And outside of the asana physical practice, there is also meditation, which we're talking about today, and breath work, which in the yogic tradition is called pranayama. So we'll be experiencing some of that today. But I've also trained in the Buddhist tradition, with Pema Chödrön, with Tara Brach, and many other people who've kind of informed both my yoga and my meditation practice. And I share many of the same benefits that Raman has stated, but it also helps in your day-to-day life, with your spouse, with your children, with other people you interact with, because it really is, once you know what it is to be fully present with people, you realize how much of the time you spend not being fully present. And even after practicing for many years, I'm much more often not present than present, and that's just, I think, a reality of life today.
So again, my name is Jorge. I went to med school in UC San Diego. At UC San Francisco. I just love UCSD. And that was back in mid 1990s, and it was an optional course in our med school at the time. But Rachel Remen, who was a foundational person in establishing mindfulness-based stress reduction within medicine, taught an optional course at our medical school. It was mainly attended just by medical students at the time. And so I took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course, which at the time it seemed really interesting, and it was, I learned a lot. I think it was something that positively impacted my life, but I was a busy med student. I was stressed. I was in my 20s. And so I don't think I fully embraced it or fully realized its full potential until there was actually a point that I got pretty sick. And it's ironic that that's a time, I think for a lot of us where it's a time of stress builds up in our lives, and then out of the blue suddenly something really unforeseen happens in your life. And whoa, all of a sudden those, the challenge that seesaw that I was showing you, that slide earlier, is all of a sudden way on the one, suddenly my resources are not as strong as I thought they were, and I'm facing a lot more challenges. And I was facing what I thought could be potentially a work, maybe even a career-changing injury. And condition. And fortunately, I had remembered my experience from the mindfulness-based stress reduction course, and I delved really back into it, and in particularly the practices. And I think I had the luxury where I basically could take a little bit of time off of work, but I basically just restructured my life to try to greatly reduce stress and greatly increase just positive experiences in my life in general. Positive relationships, mindfulness exercises, gratitude exercises, time at the beach, time outside, outdoors, in nature, etc. And it made a really, really positive impact to the point that my recovery was dramatically faster than most people with, that condition usually have. And it's definitely since then been something that stuck with me. And what I've realized, and what we'll go over more today too, is that you don't have to go, traditionally in the mindfulness-based stress reduction course, the exercises initially it was a very intensive course. They're hour-long sessions. The exercises are very long as well too. When you're very busy in your professional life, you have family, work, friends, you're balancing so many things. That's kind of challenging to be able to embrace that. It was easy. Obviously, once I got sick, I did it, almost out of necessity. But fortunately, there's been newer courses now that have actually shown a lot of similar benefits for greatly reduced time of practice. Meaning you can do a 5-minute breathwork exercise like what we'll do today and what Raman was alluding to. You can do a 2-minute exercise in the car when you're feeling stressed, just to ground yourself. And again, it has tremendous positive benefits. So that was, to me, what was kind of radical and revolutionary, is that a lot of these exercises are really portable. You can do them in your car. You can do them at work. You can do them at home. But, it's really up to you. It's very, very flexible. There's some that you'll like. That's fine that you can do. Basically, there's a whole menu of things you can do that work for you. And I think so to me, that's really attractive, is that it's really adaptable and flexible. And again, it's all about what works for you. Does anyone else, by the way, in the audience have any experience for taking a mindfulness course or biofeedback? Yeah. So in general, the thought is, ideally we want to be present, and engaged and in the moment. But of course we have, like as Raman was alluding to, we have 1,000 thoughts going through our head at any given time. And a lot of the times those thoughts just take over. And we basically are our thoughts, and we're just in that world in our head, and what mindfulness really is getting out of your getting back to the moment, where you're even acknowledging you're realizing these thoughts are going through your head, but you are not only those thoughts. And you're also present aware. You're thinking of your breath. You're thinking of you're grounded in your body. As a result, you're much more present and hopefully much more flexible and adaptable to any given situation that's in front of you.
And I think one important misconception about meditation that I want to make sure everybody understands is meditation isn't about silencing your mind. It's not about becoming totally blank and open to the universe. It's impossible to silence your mind. Your mind's whole purpose in life is to think, and that's what it does. It's more to be aware of what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what's going on. That's bringing yourself to the present moment. But I think a lot of people who, try meditation, they're like, I really hate this because I can't get it right. There is no getting meditation right. It's really all about being present with who and what you are in the moment. So I just wanted to allay that misconception.
That was the first 2 minutes. He had us meditate. In our first class, they had us meditate for 3 minutes. Like in our own way, just focus on your breath. They didn't tell us that. And it became just a war zone in my mind. We're trying to fight all the thoughts back and get them out of there. It just wouldn't happen. And then they dropped that knowledge on us and it became life.
So I'm giving you that knowledge first so you don't have to struggle like Raman did.
So again, I alluded to previously, my first experience in mindfulness was this mindfulness-based stress reduction. And John Kabat-Zinn at Harvard, he basically developed this mindfulness-based stress reduction course. He was a physician at Harvard who basically used this. He saw a lot of patients with chronic illness and chronic pain, cancer patients, et cetera, and found that he basically offered these to his patients, and eventually then he developed a course for physicians as well too, and caregivers. To be able to help them. And they extensively studied this, and they found that it actually was tremendously helpful, not just for the patients, but also for the caregivers as well. And so the course was called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR. And so that was the course that I took in 1995 in San Francisco. Just a caveat, by the way, mindfulness is not, regardless of what religious faith you practice, or if not, it's not a religious-based practice. It's a secular-based practice, and it's meant to be adaptable to any religion. It's not meant to be in conflict with any of it. There's no requirement, or again, there's not. We're not trying to proselytize here or to convert you all to mindfulness. This is really just meant to be. This is just a tool in our daily lives that we were able to use. It can be as there are religions that have used mindfulness for many, for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But at the same time, they are just, they're meant to be distinctly different. And so what we're really just talking about today, and I want to just emphasize that, is really the secular version, and not necessarily the religious version. So now we're going to start with the first exercise. We'll have, Lori's going to be, she's our experienced instructor today. So she's going to be leading us through our various different exercises.
Okay. So we're going to start with a body scan, and it's a very simple one. It's going to be about 5 minutes, so not very stressful. It will require that we all stop drinking our coffee and eating, so I'm sorry about that because I know it's also time to eat. So the first thing we want everybody to do is take a comfortable seated position. And what does that mean? When we're meditating, when we're trying to focus, what that really means is having both feet flat on the ground, okay? Having your sits bones or your rear end firmly planted on your chair, and then trying to allow your spine to rise straight up towards the sky with the crown of your head up towards the sky. And if you can get those shoulder blades on your back so you're really sitting up straight, that helps as well. And then you're going to want to rest your hands someplace, and that's going to differ for all of us. It may be on your thighs or your knees, but just someplace that your hands can rest comfortably. And then once you're in that position, if it's comfortable for you to do so, close your eyes. That just allows you to tune in a little bit more. If closing your eyes is uncomfortable for you for any reason, you can keep them open, but try not to gaze straight ahead, taking in everything in the room. Try to gaze at a spot a little bit in front of you. So again, you're able to focus on yourself. And then once you've found that comfortable seated position, just begin to breathe or notice your breath. Notice how it's flowing in your body. And there's a tendency in all of us, once we bring our attention to our breath, this thing that happens, 12 to 18 times every minute, we want to change it. Try not to change your breath in this moment. Just really follow it flowing in and flowing out. And as you continue to breathe, first just notice your feet as they contact the ground. Most of us have shoes on, so you may feel the soles of your shoes, and then that contact with the earth. And just notice where the pressure is in your feet. Are you feeling the balls of your feet touching the earth, the heels? Just notice what that feels like for your feet to be connected to the floor beneath you. And then as you continue to breathe, just bring your attention up to your sits bones, or what we like to call our rear end. And feel where your sits bones, your buttocks are in touch with the chair. And just notice what that's like for your rear end to be in touch with the chair. You might notice that one side is more connected than the other. You might notice some pain in your lower back, or you might feel nothing at all, but just be in touch with what you are feeling in the moment, with that connection of your seat to the chair. And as you continue to breathe, now bring your attention to your stomach. You might even want to touch your stomach. Most of us have just eaten something, so just notice what you feel in your stomach. Maybe it feels comfortably full and content. Maybe this is a place that you hold tension. Pay attention to what's going on in the central region of your body. And again, our purpose right now is not to change what's going on or to judge what's going on. It's really just to be fully present with the sensations that you feel in your abdomen and your stomach at this point this morning. And then finally, we're going to end by bringing attention to the area of your chest, where your heart is. Just notice this morning what's going on in this area. Again, for many people, this is an area we hold tension, but it can also be an area of great warmth. Just notice what you're feeling in this moment in your chest. And again, you might be feeling nothing. Or maybe your thoughts are taking over and wondering why you're doing this at 8:30 in the morning. But just notice what's going on in your body in this moment. Continuing to breathe, to be fully present. And then when you're ready, just slowly open your eyes and return to the room. So how was that for people? Anybody want to shout out? Weird, interesting, never noticed I hold tension in my stomach. Anybody have any thoughts to share?
I never ever contemplated on holding, but it does.
Yeah.
I never thought of it. I don't even care.
Yeah, so she mentioned that, she never thought of holding tension in her stomach. She's a shoulder tension holder. I'm a shoulder tension holder too. But I did this a few months ago with some physicians, and one of them came up to me afterwards, and he's like, I never noticed that I had tension in my stomach. But, you talk about butterflies in your stomach. That's tension that's very obvious. But sometimes we just hold in different places, and we're all a little different. Other insights? Right. But that, how many people did feel a little, that was a 5-minute practice. How many people noticed an increased sense of relaxation? Yeah, so very brief practice that really can ground us. And I think your point, it's very easy to get back hyped up. But what if you just did that, for a minute every once in a while? And I think, Raman mentioned his trigger at work is, every time I use the sanitizer. But your trigger could be as you're driving, every time you hit a red light, I'm going to do a brief body scan. Or every time my phone rings at work, I'm going to let it ring once or twice, and I'm going to do a brief body scan before I answer. So if we just did these little practices every once in a while during our work day, it might have a more cumulative impact so that it's not like, oh, that was nice, but now I'm going to go running 60 miles an hour again. So.
I can say too that, in general, I think, it's really challenging, particularly in the beginning, when your thoughts often take over. Just distractions are inevitable. You're hearing noise outside the room here. Again, you're suddenly a tangent on a thought that you go away with a thought. Excuse me. Better? Yes, good. To me, the most powerful thing is that those thoughts, again, don't consume us. We didn't really do it in this exercise as much, but part of one of the foundational aspects of mindfulness is very much that it is completely normal and it's okay for your thoughts to be racing like that. Don't beat yourself up. We do not have to be perfect at this. The whole point is that really just to acknowledge and to get back in that space where you realize, oh, I'm actually going off, if you're looking outside kind of in at what you're doing and you're noticing that your thoughts are racing, or, oh, I'm distracted on the outside, I'm not present. Oh, let's go back and just pay attention and reground yourself. And so, and that process is just constantly recurring over and over again during your practice. And again, that's completely normal. And that's almost the whole point of it, is really just to be able to kind of retrain yourself to realize, okay, you're going to get distracted, but then, again, just reground yourself and come back to the moment and come back to the present. And that's really the point of it all. Yes.
This is one more tip. I'm just going to, every once in a while, I'll have a little tip that somebody told me that has actually been useful, so I'll just share that with you. At night, when you're trying to sleep, your thoughts are racing. Mm-hmm. A tip that I got from the instructor we had, Alan Weiss, he said, look, you're going to have 100,000 thoughts. And sometimes they'll build momentum. And then you're just thinking, trying to not think about that thought. All just makes you think even more strongly about that thought, why you're thinking about that thought, how you got it anyway. So his tip was, label it as a positive or a negative thought, or, just give it a label. This thought is positive. This thought is negative. And then just like that's what it was. It was a positive thought. Oh, it was a negative thought. And then I do that, and then I just get bored, and I fall asleep. And I I've tried it a couple times. It's been helpful for me. I don't know if it'll be helpful for others, but I think that was one tip that was actually functional for me.
Yeah. There's also a really good one that's kind of similar, but it's for people who are a little bit more visual. You can actually, you have your thoughts and they're racing or whatever. You can pick the thought. I'm thinking about what I'm going to cook for dinner tonight. And you can imagine that you put it in a balloon and you release that balloon. You watch the balloon fly up into the sky with that thought. So you can use that visual imagery of just releasing your thoughts up into the air in balloons. That's the nice one too, especially when you're thinking too much and trying to sleep or you just need to release.
So this is a perfect segue into this next part of the talk, because basically what is mindfulness? And it's basically just paying it to, I'll read just directly from it, but this is directly from John Kabat-Zinn, who created that mindfulness-based stress reduction course. But it's paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And each part of that is really, really important. Again, I'll repeat it. You're paying attention in a very particular way, purposefully, present in the present, and most importantly, I think, non-judgmentally toward yourself. It's also the capacity to perceive our world clearly without adulteration or manipulation. And what that refers to is just adulteration or manipulation from our thoughts. And again, the constant battle that's going on in our head. There's thoughts going at all different, and you can really be hijacked by those. And again, if the more you cultivate your practice, the more you do exercises like we just did, you're better able to just let those thoughts go and really just be back here. And I think this is really important as well, but also just imbued with an open-minded curiosity and an intention of kindness and compassion. And really towards yourself, towards your thoughts. Again, some of those thoughts might be really crazy, but it's okay. Just let them go. You are not the most important thing is you are not your thoughts. They do not define you. In MBSR, the really important things: do not fixate on your thoughts or events. Let them come, accept them as they are, and let them pass. And really avoid analyzing or judging them. And I think that's often the hardest part, because you get a thought that's, especially if it's emotionally charged, and you want to figure it out. You want to try to solve it. And I think that's again, one of the most important things is that at least during the practice time, and ideally more and more in your life, it's not about solving that problem. In that, if you want to be really present in what you're doing, better to just acknowledge that thought, recognize it. You will store it away for later, but then let it go and reground yourself, and you're back here. Any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, and I think, the big things are, being present, non-judging, and I think this idea of curiosity is really, really important. And I think kind of like Raman was, living, it's like, wow, that really is what it's like to feel pissed off. That's interesting. So really just having that curiosity about who and what you are, your thoughts and your emotions and everything that makes you up, just really having an openness and a curiosity about, this is me, good and bad and, ugly and beautiful and, cause we're all that mixture of many different, conflicting thoughts and emotions, and it's okay. That's being human, and just having that curiosity and sense of compassion for who and what we are in this present body and mind and spirit.
So in mindfulness-based stress reduction, and we've alluded to this as well too, there's 4 basic exercises. These are the fundamental practices within it. And we're actually going to be doing 3 of them here today. And the only additional one is what we're not going to do is hatha yoga or sitting yoga. The yoga practices, by the way, they are also tremendously varied, just like the mindfulness meditations that you can do. There are countless numbers of breath scans, countless number of body scans, and again, countless number of types of yoga. Traditionally, they did hatha yoga and mindfulness-based stress reduction, but that's not necessary. You practice a different type of yoga.
Yes. Although hatha yoga is a very generalized term for the asana practice, but there are different lineages of yoga, which is, we don't really need to go into. But I think the important thing here is, remember, there's a potpourri of things you can do to be mindful. And I think if you're one of those kind of people who like sitting in a chair and not moving and following your breath just like drives you crazy, Is anybody in the room feel that way? Like, I can't sit still and do this. Okay. So for you guys, if you want to engage in a mindful practice, yoga might be a better one for you because you get to work with the breath and the mind through a physical practice. And there's also walking meditation, which again, for people who sitting still is a really hard thing, it can be a very useful practice. So I think the important thing is to realize there's a potpourri to choose from. Choose the one that fits your constitution, your lifestyle, who and what you are, and don't feel like because sitting meditation doesn't work for you, that there aren't other opportunities to be mindful.
So now we're going to do a breathing exercise.
All right.
Breathing.
All right, so breath work, again, is a form of meditation and mindfulness. There's a lot of different ones, but we're going to start at least with a very simple one, which is just deep diaphragmatic breathing. So in our last exercise, I asked you to just watch your natural breath. This time we're going to start just by watching our natural breath, and then we're actually going to deepen it and see what kind of effects that has on us. Most of us tend to be chest breathers. We breathe pretty much all in our upper lungs, and we actually don't use our full lung capacity when we breathe. And most of us, when people come into your office anxious and upset, how are they breathing?
Short and shallow.
Exactly. I'm so upset. Oh, what's going to happen? So, that short, shallow breathing actually can be very stimulating and keep our fight or flight response going. So deep diaphragmatic breathing tends to be very calming, but it can be very different for different people. So let's give it a try. Again, find a comfortable seated position. Again, the preferred one is feet firmly into the ground, sits bones into your chair, and a nice long spine that's raising towards the sky so you really have room to breathe. Diaphragmatic breathing exercises are actually better done lying down. Obviously, we're not in a good situation to do that, but if you find this a helpful practice, I would advise you to try it at home lying down. Close your eyes again if it's comfortable for you. And then I would ask you to place one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And just again, begin the practice by just noticing how you are breathing naturally in this moment. Notice how the breath is flowing in and flowing out. Notice if you can feel your chest rise. You feel your belly rise. How is the breath flowing in your body? Then on your next exhale, fully exhale your breath all the way out through your nose. And then as you inhale, imagine that you're pouring a big glass of cool water all the way into your abdomen. First feeling your abdomen, you feel your hand rise up. Then feeling your chest, feeling up to your throat. You're fully full of your breath. And then when you feel like you can't hold it anymore, you exhale completely through your nose, pouring that water back out, pouring the breath back out to the environment. And then just with your own breath, continue to inhale very deeply, pouring the water first into your belly, then your chest, then up to your throat. And then exhale, fully pouring the breath out into the room. One more time with me, leading. Inhale all the way up in full deep breath, using all your lung capacity. And then exhale through the nose all the way out. And I'm going to ask you to take 5 more breaths in that manner, just following your own breath in quiet. done with your own cycle of 5 more breaths, so feel free to release your hands down and open your eyes. So how was that for people? Any comments, observations?
I found that I'm really not a deep breather, and it actually hurts to take that deep breath in. I was like shaking inside, which is kind of weird because you breathe all day long.
Right.
Purposely close your eyes and doing that was kind of weird at first. And it's just taking that deep breath and letting it out.
Yeah, so it really, for most, how many people felt like taking a deep breath was really different? It is, because again, most of us do tend to breathe totally in our thoracic cavity, in our chest, and really don't use our full diaphragm to breathe deeply into our belly. And that's fine on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we're not going to spend our entire day focusing on our breath and taking big, deep breaths. But the point is that those very big diaphragmatic breaths are very calming to the nervous system. And for most of us who live in a very fight or flight, gotta go kind of a world, that ability to calm ourselves down, activating our parasympathetic nervous system or our rest and digest part of our nervous system is very powerful. Any other observations? All right. And again, that's a practice, you can do for 30 seconds or a minute. Again, when the light turns red, when the phone rings, when you're gelling up your hands, whatever, you can choose kind of like a trigger in your life that when this particular thing happens during the day, I'm going to take 2 full big diaphragmatic breaths and then I'm going to go on. So it doesn't have to be a prolonged practice. It can just be little snippets throughout the day.
Lori actually alluded to the fact that during this practice, and actually all mindfulness practices, basically what you're doing is you are activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Again, we basically have the seesaw as well. It's within our bodies. We have our fight or flight, which is called our sympathetic nervous system on one side. And in our, the modern world, that's activated a lot. Probably a lot more than for our ancestors. In the past, that sympathetic nervous system, it's there for fight or flight, for, when we're being attacked by animals or something really life-threatening is happening. But we carry stress now throughout the day, obviously, and it stays in our bodies. On our other side, we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is really our calming nervous system, rest and digest. Again, that basically, what physically happens during that time period when your parasympathetic is activated, there actually is decreased blood flow to your extremities, and it's actually going to your gut and to your inside. On the contrast, when you're stressed out and your sympathetic nervous system is firing, it's intended to actually bring blood flow to your heart and to your brain. What happens is that basically you get shunted blood, particularly from your extremities. And so for a lot of people, when you're stressed, you might notice that your hands or your feet get really cold. And that's a sign of just basically sympathetic nervous system activation. And really simple exercise, and they actually had me do this. If you actually you can go to physiology labs and sit and do it, and I bet you if we did this, it would be really cool if we had the money and resources to do it. But if you wear a temperature probe on your finger, during one of our exercises, even just over 5 minutes, you can actually increase the temperature of a finger or your toe by 10 degrees. Pretty dramatic. And again, that's basically because the parasympathetic is taking over. The sympathetic nervous system and all that stress is being damped down. Your parasympathetic nervous system is being ramped up, which is what you want, the rest and digest, and blood flow is now getting to your extremities.
Although I'm not sure that would work in this classroom because it's awfully cool in here.
It's very cold, yes. So again, the mindfulness-based stress reduction originally was an 8-week program, 2.5-hour classes once a week, an additional full day class, and daily 45-minute mindfulness practices. It's an intensive course. It's long. It's difficult for a lot of busy professionals.
I was going to say, how many people in this room have that much time on their weekly schedule to do something like that?
Yeah. So really challenging.
Yeah.
So newer mindfulness programs are a lot more practical. Classes are shorter, very often 60 to 90 minutes. Daily practice exercises have been reduced to 10 or 15 minutes rather than the 45 minutes. And like, as I mentioned previously, there are various approaches. I think really easily now online, there's one that's called Palouse.com, which is really good. It's completely free. You go on there, you do it at your own pace. They have reading exercises as well as online, just video exercises that are guided meditations. It's basically like having Lori, right wherever you are, which is really cool, I think. eMindful as well, and Happify also offer courses like that. There are ongoing courses. A lot of the universities actually offer this as well too. As Raman, he just took a course through USC. A lot of these will be actually paid for by if you actually ask, your department might pay for it, or your university your job might pay for it, particularly because of the health benefits that have been shown for taking these courses.
And there are actually some health insurances that will cover it depending upon your previous health conditions and how good your insurance is.
And then they also have either one-day or multi-day retreats that are out there as well too. So evidence for mindfulness, and this is why insurance companies will actually cover it, why your universities will pay for it, is because they actually show not just benefits, but sustained benefits, meaning long-term benefits in each of these domains. Physical, in terms of decreased illness, decreased pain as well if you suffer from chronic pain or migraine headache, something like that. Psychological benefits, in terms of self-esteem as well as, basically your relationships, interaction with others, both at home and as well as at work. And actually cognitive benefits. So actually it's been shown that your work productivity will go up just by, if you actually commit to doing a course like this and committing to the practice, you will be a more productive and more engaged employee at work. And so this is why workplaces are willing to pay for the bill for you to actually go and take these courses. So I'm just going to go over a little. There's actually a handout that comes with this course that goes into a lot more detail if you're interested just to look, but we're just going to touch on some of the basics here in the last few minutes of the discussion. So, and this is evidence for these short programs, not for that long original course that I took many, many years ago. Here's a couple different ones. A single 15-minute mindfulness intervention has significant effect on participants' problem-solving skills. So again, just by doing this at work, not only are you going to feel better and feel more relaxed, but you're actually going to be able to solve problems better at work and perform cognitive tasks in a better way. And it's really, to me, what struck me was the work-related benefits. It made sense, the physical and the psychological, but really I didn't realize the cognitive benefits and the fact that at work, that it's really been shown there's decreased job attrition, decreased burnout, increased engagement and feeling invested in your work. And so I think this is really, again, for clerkship coordinators in particular, this is something that I think could be really, really useful. And I think the one thing, among many things I really like about mindfulness too, is that it's adaptable and portable, and it's something that can be shared. You could be doing this with your residency, but the residency program, if they wanted to be very forward thinking with your program directors, they could initiate something like this at your shop. For people who practice in the community, any work department could decide to do this together as a group, and likely, be able to notice significant benefits.
How many people have lots of meetings every week? Lots of meetings, PEC, CCC, blah, blah, blah. So there are some companies now that are beginning each meeting with a moment of silence or a few deep breaths or something like that. So you might try taking that back to your shop and go, hey, before we start talking for a whole hour, let's just calm down, take a few breaths, get focused. So another way you could interact it or interweave it in your daily life.
Yeah, good idea. So ways to incorporate this in your own daily life, again, there's mindfulness courses, whether they're online or in person. There's actually apps now on your phone. I carry one, or a couple on my phone, where literally you can have a guided meditation that you just hit play and it'll take you through, in 5 minutes. Basically, so that way wherever you are, you can just have a guided meditation ready to go. Cause I find it a lot more difficult personally to lead myself through a meditation, than it is to actually listen to someone else and then follow those directions. That's just what works for me. So having these apps is really helpful. And then again, regular practice, wherever, in the car, ideally not while you're driving, but even if it is while you are driving, you can still be thinking about your breath and thinking about tension that you're holding in your body as long as you're staying present. And better that than, I personally think, than being out in your world of thoughts, completely distracted and driving mindlessly. Better to be present. And so I think by doing, maybe not one of these guided meditations while you're driving. Yeah, and definitely no closing the eyes. But just focusing on your breath, just taking yourself back to the present moment and going back to your breath or going back to any part of tension in your body, and recognizing that, I think, can be really helpful.
Yeah, how many people have drove all the way home and not even realized what route they took? Yeah, I mean, we tend to be very mindless a lot of times, especially with driving, because it's such a routine habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of scary. As Raman alluded to before bed, this helps me fall asleep. Really, I used to not be such a great sleeper. And the more I've incorporated this into my life and been able to do it, I can now do, I'll just do a brief practice and before you know it, I'm asleep. Probably just because we're all tired as well too. But I think a lot of us we're so tired that we're overtired and our bodies are really stressed, and so that it's counterproductive and it makes it even more difficult for us to fall asleep. Or something, rather than taking a sleep medication or doing something, looking for having a drink of alcohol or something else, you really could instead just do a 5-minute mindfulness exercises and you're out. Meals during or after exercise also is a really great time. Exercise, you've burned a lot of that excess energy. And so I found that you can really take yourself really deeply, in just a few minutes right after a workout as well too. If you can add, let's say you have a 30-minute workout, you just add just 2 minutes or 3 minutes to it, or finish your workout a few minutes early, just 2 minutes earlier, and then do this kind of grounding exercise afterwards, and it's really powerful. Any other ideas for when to do it?
Whenever you can. But I do think it's helpful to have some, especially if you're just introducing a practice into your life, try to choose, again, either some kind of signal that tells you it's time to do it, or choose a specific time during your day that works better. If you're a person that has small kids in the house and the only quiet time you have is, 5:30 in the morning before you go to work, get up a few minutes early, do a 5-minute practice. But just really find some consistency, because just like everything else in life, if there isn't consistency, you'll forget to do it.
I have one that for emails, if you're about to write an emotionally charged email, maybe take a deep breath before.
That's always wise. Never send an emotionally charged email till the day after. You just put it in the save box.
Mm-hmm. All right, so our last exercise is going to be a visualization, loving kindness. We have perfect 4 minutes.
So we're going to end with a loving kindness or compassion meditation. We're only going to do part of it because we don't have time for a full meditation, but we did want to introduce you to this idea of compassion meditation. It's also called Metta or Maitri. So if you're looking it up online, there are many guided meditations. I'm going to introduce you to one that Christian Neff introduced me to. She has been studying self-compassion for many, many years. And so she changed the metta practice a little bit to focus more on self-compassion. So again, find that comfortable seated position. Close your eyes if that works for you. And then just, again, we've been tuning into our breath, so hopefully it feels a little bit more natural now to just, for a few breaths, just follow your breath in and out. And just really try to settle into the moment. And as you continue to breathe, bring into mind somebody that you just really, really love, that you have unconditional love for. And it's probably not going to be your spouse or your teenage child, because usually those kind of loving relationships have some complexity to them. But just somebody that you just have so much unconditional, wonderful, warm love for that it almost bursts out of you. And it doesn't have to be a person. Sometimes a grandmother or grandfather is great, but it might be your pet. It might be your dog or your cat or your goldfish, but just some living being that you just really, really love. And just allow that person or being to be present. Visualize them in your mind's eye. And just really feel within yourself all that love that you have for this beloved being. And as you keep all that warm feeling and you continue to visualize them, begin to repeat some phrases to them. And I'll give you some sample phrases. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May you have peace. And just continue to repeat those phrases over and over again to this very beloved being in your life. And it doesn't have to be those exact phrases. There may be phrases that work better for you. But just phrases that really convey to this beloved how much they mean to you and how much you want them to be happy and healthy. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May you have peace. And as you continue to hold your beloved with all this love and compassion, imagine that you now walk into your mind's eye with your beloved. Maybe you're sitting together holding hands, maybe you're just looking at each other, but you are together with your beloved. And that great love and compassion that you hold for your beloved, you now also include yourself in all that warm, wonderful feeling. And then begin to repeat your phrases to you and your beloved. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free from suffering. May we have peace. And just continuing to repeat those phrases to yourself and to your beloved. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free from suffering. May we have peace. And then slowly opening your eyes and returning to the room. We just have a minute, but any observations or how did that feel? Was it easy to find a beloved? Everybody find it easy to find a beloved? Anybody have a difficulty finding a beloved? Anybody find it difficult to share positive emotions with yourself? You guys are all well adjusted. So a very powerful practice. That was a very short part of it. You actually go from that to extending that love and compassion to just yourself, to a neutral person, and then to a difficult person in your life, trying to keep that same emotional stance. So again, a wonderful practice, been very well studied to help people keep positive emotions. But hopefully you had a good potpourri, a little experience of several different things. We probably have 30 seconds for any questions or comments. All right.
Question.
Well, I'm going to definitely do this to Thursday's conference. Starting and ending with the conference. Yes.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely try and take some of this home to your shops, but definitely also take it home for your own personal life. Well, thank you all for being open-minded and having us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We'll be around here for a few minutes, or at least I'll be around here for a few minutes if you have any additional questions.